Juchitan, Mexico, a city on the isthmus with many faces. On the one hand, small town squares like this one, where local Zapotec women come down from the hills and sell their flowers and their vegetables. On the other, a small city all around you that has all of the trappings of a modern metropolis. Vámonos, amigo. I've come to this place in search of one of the most unusual indigenous dishes, something I've never tried before, armadillo. And it's become pretty apparent that even though it's a celebrated food here, fresh armadillo is not always easy to find. They're tough to hunt and expensive to buy. So I've enlisted the help of my friend, Susanna Trilling. As a chef and owner of a nearby cooking school, Susanna knows just what to do. Call in a couple of savvy locals, Florinda and Severiana. Everyone's got a friend of a friend of a friend who's got one, but we're in a back alley barrio here, desperate for just one armadillo. Armadillo is a special dish here, and not something people eat every day. If you don't get to the market right away in the morning, you've got to seek out the suppliers all on your own. Apparently, Florinda and her friend know where we can find an armadillo. Well, clearly, we've found ourselves in the home of the wild game broker. There's buckets of armadillos to choose from, and here laid out on the floor, dozens and dozens of iguanas. About 800 pesos later, we have what we came for. As it turns out, the chase was only part one of the adventure. Part two takes place here at Severiana's home, where she and her husband, Gregorio, will prep the armadillo for cooking. Well, you know the old saying, it takes a village to find, buy, butcher, and cook an armadillo. And our experience here is certainly proof positive of that. So would now be an inappropriate time to ask you guys how long you've been married?
Ya 52 años.
52 years. Because clearly you've done this armadillo thing together before. Being a small town, word has gotten around that an armadillo is being prepped for some gringo to eat. This is taking a little longer than I thought it would. It's not so easy. There's so much intramuscular and intermuscular fat, as well as a prehistoric design to this animal that makes butchering it a nearly impossible task. That, of course, and the fact that their knives that they're using are about as sharp as dessert spoons. The next step in the process is for Severiana to put together a mixture of local seasonings for a marinade.
So all this is going to be marinated in the guajillo, the garlic, achiote, lime, salt, and then it goes back into its natural shell. Then we're going to take it over to Florinda's house and bake it in her oven because she's got a really cool house.
This basically is like an armadillo progressive dinner.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, Florinda, there's your armadillo. Zapotec recipes once called for roasting armadillo in a traditional wood oven, but that took a full day. So Florinda is going for the more modern option.
So now we're going to cover it with tin foil to keep it moist, with all this juice in there, and put it in the oven, and we'll let it bake for about an hour and a half or two.
Wonderful.
No, está bien. Así no. Okay, Andrew. Do you want the front leg? I think that looks good
Fabulous.
for you.
I have to tell you, the tail sitting there in the pot with the head makes the experience all the more interesting, to say the least.
Well, it just reminds me of what you're eating, no?
Add a little of the lime and chili sauce, and we're ready to dive in. Here goes my first taste of armadillo. That is unusual, to say the least. It's extremely lean. It's extremely light. It's much different than what I thought it would taste like. It's almost like rabbit, but there's a wonderful, well, sort of mild gaminess in there that's very unique. Once cooked, the armadillo smells pretty musty and fairly earthy, like a rodent and a reptile combined. Yet the taste is surprisingly on the mild
It's
side.
interesting, it doesn't taste like what it smells like.
Oh, not at all.
Did you get that?
Not at all.
Yeah.
And I thought actually that there would be a stronger, with all that fat in there, I thought it would be a little goofier tasting than it actually is. You don't expect it to be that lean and delicate and that refined. And the sauce is incredible.
The sauce is really good.
Juchitan is one of the few places left in the world where you can eat fresh armadillo in its own terroir. The added bonus is that it was cooked by native Zapoteca women using traditional recipes. Now that's authentic. Yes. Mexico City, the capital of Mexico, is the world's third largest city. It's jam-packed with all the modern signatures, juxtaposed with religious landmarks and lots of history. At the heart, Centro Histórico, the historic city center, featuring one of the world's most revered architectural structures, the Metropolitan Cathedral. This is one exciting city, and all the activity can put you into stimulation overload. But for this New Yorker, it feels a bit like home. Street vendors are everywhere. In Mexico City, you literally can't go a block without hitting a street cart with a bubbling pot or a sizzling grill. So here's the deal. What this guy does is he gets a big pot of broth boiling early in the morning, goes into the market, and he's got pieces of the liver, the lungs, the ribs, the cheeks, the stomach, the shoulders, which is what this meat is from, the skin, see. And what he does is he braises them till they're all tender. And this broth is loaded with spices and seasonings. And then once it's tender enough, he brings them into his cart where he's got a little griddle and he can crisp them up and get ready to dispense them for tacos. And there's the pieces of the stomach, the pieces of the kidney that just a few seconds ago were here in this pot. Pig taco goodness. The flavor of this is very special and very exotic. The stomach is a lot better than I thought it would be. It's still a little chewy and still reminds me of eating someone else's stomach. And there is something to be said for just watching parts come out of some boiling cauldron. But you know something? I'm excited. Now here's a new concept for fast food. The bugs, you eat them alive?
Son muy fuertes de sabor.
Sí.
Puede probarlos.
Ah. He's telling me that you do eat them alive, that it tastes like menthol or cinnamon, that it has really good flavor. And apparently they're rumored to be very good in case you've got a thyroid illness. Now, the it's good for what ails you philosophy is kind of part and parcel of exotic foods dining. Hey, steady. That guy's trying to jailbreak right there. Basically, the weirder and more exotic anything is, the greater the chances are that somebody's going to tell you it's good for what ails you. That is the weirdest thing. Those bugs taste exactly like tutti frutti gum.